Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man, which built his house on a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell not. For it was founded upon a rock. And every one that heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them not, shall be likened unto a foolish man which built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell. And great was the fall thereof. Some of you are older than I am. That's a profound statement. Some of you, a few of you are younger, like Brother Ricky. He's a little younger than I am. Brother Ray may be 2 years younger than me. Now listen to me. Some of you remember the custom used to on folks looking for work out in the rural areas. They would go. I remember this in Coffee County, Douglas, Georgia. They would go to a place there in town, maybe the county square or whatever, town square. And they would gather up there, and they were coming to look for work. Now, you don't see that today, but back then, those days, folks wanted to work, and they would, some of them didn't have jobs. They'd come and gather up there on a Monday morning, and the farmers, people would come from around. They'd come to that group, and they would pick out somebody to go home with them and work in their fields and do construction jobs and carpenter work and painting, and maybe for a longer time of work. In a particular setting, there came a man looking for someone to go to his farm with him and do some work that summer. So he interviewed one and the other and the other. Finally, he came to this person that was impressed him. He was a rather nice-looking fellow. His appearance was good, and it looked like he was pretty strong and clean-cut guy. And he questioned him. He said, I need somebody to come with me and who can look after the horses and to look after the cows and tend the stock and feed them. Can you do it? And the man answered, well, I can sleep on a stormy night. Can you keep up the fence? Can you do a little carpenter work for me, work in the barn? I can sleep on a stormy night. How are you at plowing? And again, the fellow said, I can sleep on a stormy night. The farmer was confused with all the answers, but he hired him anyway and took him on. And the man did everything that he was asked to do and had a great spirit about him, and he worked real hard and certainly wasn't lazy, and everything went along real good for a week or so. And then one night a great storm came along. Lightning flashed and thunder roared, and rain just came in sheets. The man woke up, he farmered in, he raced to the door and ran out to the house where the hired man was sleeping and beat on the door, but no answer came. All he could hear was that man snoring, sleeping through the storm. He ran to the barn, the farmer did, and he looked in the barn, and the horses were in the stalls, the doors were locked, the cows were all up, and he ran to the hen house, and the windows were shut, and everything was safe and quiet, and everything, the tin that was loose on the implement barn was nailed down, and everything was just, the farm equipment was taken care of. Next morning at breakfast, the old farmer said to the hired hand, we had quite a storm last night. And the hand said, did we? I didn't even hear it. Storms don't wake me up. They don't bother me. Farmer said, that's what I noticed. I beat on your door and all I could hear was snoring. And now I understand why you said you could sleep on a stormy night. Folks, let me tell you something. That little boy had a great philosophy in life. I'll do my job thoroughly. I'll plan for the crisis. And when it comes, it won't even wake me up. It won't even bother me. I don't have any fear of the storms. I can sleep on a stormy night. And that's a wonderful lesson that we can learn from that. Great lesson. And that's exactly the lesson that Jesus was teaching in these scriptures here in the 7th chapter of Matthew that I was reading a few moments ago. Jesus talking about two men, he talks about two houses, and he talks about two foundations. The storms came, and then there were two results, and there were two ends. And immediately we see that Jesus wasn't talking about building a house. Jesus was talking about building a life. Literally, I think Jesus could have called this parable life and how to build it, or how to sleep through the storm. I want to call it how to sleep through a stormy night. So let's look at simple teachings of Jesus. He's finished up the Sermon on the Mount, and this is the conclusion here. And he sums it up. There are four elements of that storm that I want you to notice that'll teach you something. The first I want you to notice is the house. Building a house, folks, and building a life is very simple. First of all, you build a house. If you're going to build a house, you're going to have a plan. You're going to have a design. You're going to have something that you're going to build according to, and you're going to have to build according to that plan. You don't just grab a load of bricks and grab a load of mortar and you pile it over here and get some lumber and you throw it on the pile and say, this is the house. This is my house. Look what I've built. That's just a pile of materials. And this is not a house because you're not building it by design. The same thing is true in life. Listen to me this morning. Some people go through life just dumping materials out here and dumping materials there, and get through today and throw it on the pile and get through tomorrow and throw it on the pile. And let me ask you right now to stop this morning and think with me. I want you to say to yourself, what is my purpose this morning? What is my plan? What is my goal? What is it going to look like when I finish building it? One of these folks, one of these days, you're going to have to build a life. What's the design for that life? What's the purpose for that life? What is your goal? If I were to ask you this morning to answer me in 2 or 3 sentences, how many could answer that question? What do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do with your life? That life that you're building. Could you say, I have an all-consuming desire, I have a goal, I have a plan, I have a purpose set for my life? Folks, God has given us wonderful materials. He's given us everything that we need to build a life. But are you building it according to plan? Are you building it with the materials that God has given you? Or are you just simply making a junk pile? Here's some things, materials, I dump it over here. Here's something else, next week I put it over here. At the end of the year, maybe if you think about 2025, I have a large pile of nothing but activities. I'm no further down the road for the purpose and on the purpose of my life, no plan, and you're no closer to getting that life built at the end of 2025 than you were when the year started. I heard a man say one time that he went to the best colleges that this country could afford. He said, I received the finest education that any man could get. He said, when I came out, I made an observation. He said, they had given me, and I had a magnificent education, he said, but he said, they had given me all the spokes, but they didn't give me a hub. They really didn't give me a center. They didn't give me a purpose for living. They didn't give me something to draw these spokes together. All I had was a great education. And Jesus is saying to you and to me this morning, build your life as you build a house. If you're going to do that, you must have a plan to build by. And I want to ask you this morning, what kind of house are you building? Serious. If you came in here this morning and you really didn't have a purpose, my prayer is that God will give you a purpose for building your life, for building that house. Give you a goal. I hope you can say this morning, I'm building a house. But remember, you must build according to plan. I know some people I've seen building real physical houses, and literally it didn't look like, they certainly didn't build by plan. They started over here and just added and added and added. It reminded me of the way some people build their lives. And the second, not only design that you must have if you're going to build a house, it's a daily work. You're going to have to work at it day by day by day. You can't waste away the season and come to the end of the season and suddenly in the last 2 weeks just try to throw it all together. You can't do that. Builders, you talk to a builder and he'll say, you've got to catch the time right, the season. You've got to do work according to those seasons. Clear weather. Get the foundation in the ground. Do this and do that and do the other. You just can't take this pile and that pile and that pile and this thing and that thing and that thing and throw it out there on a pile somewhere. A little by little. It's a daily work. Building day by day, brick by brick, stone by stone, lumber, board by board. That's the only way to build a life. And when the week is done, you can look back and say, well, I've accomplished a little more this week. Another week goes by, I've accomplished a little more. Another month, another year, you can say, I'm closer to my goal. I'm going somewhere. I'm doing something with my life, and I get the joy because I have a sense of being faithful to this, doing something. There's a completeness about it all. I'm reaching that goal. I'm doing something. Folks, that'll do something for your self-esteem. That'll make you feel better. To feel like you've accomplished something last week. I've accomplished something last month. I've accomplished something last year. Under the power and the hand and the direction and guidance of God, I'm closer to reaching my goal, to building this house, my life, than I was the first of the year. So there's a plan. Somebody said if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So you've got to build by that design. And it's a daily work. I remember when I was in college, I didn't have time like a lot of folks do, to flounder around and do this and study that, make a career out of education. I had 2 children and a wife to take care of, and I believe that it was my responsibility to do it. God had called her to take care of the children, and I was to provide the things that we needed. So I had to work. I worked. I went to school. I preached. I was daddy. I was husband. That takes some discipline. That takes some work. So I didn't have time to fool around in school. So I found out this is what I want to do. This is the degree that I'm looking for. This is the degree that I'm working at. This is part of building my life. So I wrote down all the courses that I would need. And I wrote down all of the electives that I could take. And I wrote them all down, and I took that list and I checked them all. And I checked them all. And I checked them all. And every time I would, at the end of the quarter, at that time we were in the quarter system, and every time that I finished one, I felt good about it because I was getting closer. And at the end of this year, and this year, and this year, and finally, I graduated, and I felt so good because I followed a plan, a design, and I achieved what I was looking to achieve. Folks, listen to me. A design, you work at it every day. You don't just get it immediately. And you have to have a desire to live in that house once it's built. Not only design, not only work it day by day, but you must live in that house once you get it built. You can't build a house and say, well, I don't want to live in this house. I'm going to live with somebody else. You're stuck with that house you built. And you're stuck with a life that you made. Now hear me this morning. You're stuck with it. You'd better stop and think, what kind of life am I building? If I have to stay in this house, if I have to live in this life in my older years, I had better give some thought today on what kind of house I am. And that's the first element, a house in this parable. A design, a daily work, a desire to live in the house. And then the second element of the story is this, the storms. And they came, and the winds blew, and the rains fell, and the floods came and beat it against the house. Folks, I'm here to tell you, you don't need me to tell you this, but there's storms in life. Storms surround us every day. We went through some storms in 2025, but there are more storms than that. We're facing some economic storms, thousands of people without jobs, big businesses, little businesses are failing, storms in government, individuals getting that little pink slip saying, we don't need you anymore. We have technology to do what you used to do. There's the financial storms, there's the physical storms. You go to work one day, you go to the doctor one day, and there's something here, and he says, we need to do some more tests. So they do the test, and finally it all comes back, and the doctor says, you have a malignancy. What does that mean, doctor? It means that it's possibly is in your bloodstream. It could be other places in your body, and you only have X number of months to live. Healthy, strong, everything going well, and suddenly, the glory of youth is gone. Your vigor and vitality has slipped from your hands. The storms break, and it may be over in just a few months. You could get in your car leaving this place this morning, go out here to the intersection, somebody runs that intersection and hits you head on, and you could be crippled for life. A physical storm, and life is changed in an instant. I've seen it happen. The storms will come, and they'll change your life forever. Doubt, moral storms, storms of temptation, dreams shattered, marriage on the rocks, relationships shattered, people disappoint you, and on and on and on I could go. The storms of life. The question is, how are you going to face them? They're going to come, but how are you going to face them? Jesus didn't promise that he'd deliver us from the storms, all of them. He didn't say that. He didn't say, just trust me and obey me, and you won't ever have any storms. You won't ever have to face a storm. As a matter of fact, he promised right the opposite. He said, you're going to have trouble. You're going to have tribulations. That's life, folks. I don't care if you're saved or if you're unsaved. That's life. The storms are coming. Nobody escapes them. So build your house, Jesus said. And remember, one day, hear me now, one day that house is going to be tested. As you build a life, one day, listen, one day the storm will hit. I can't predict when. I can't predict what kind. It might be that storm is upon you now, but it's going to test your house. It's going to test your life. So the first element in this story is a house. The second element in this parable is the storms, and there's a third element that I want us to look at. And that's the foundation. What did you build upon? I used to work with a state in engineering. We had to test the foundations. I didn't work in that department. There were others who were in the soil department, and they would test the soil. Be sure that it was compacted enough to build, to lay that cement, that asphalt, that road upon. And if it wasn't, you can look around you and you can see the results. Did the road crack, break? As the storms, the rain come? Listen to the foundation. Jesus said, the one that builds on the rock. One built there, the other built on the sand, and was washed away, and great was that disaster. So I'm going to ask you, what is your foundation? Oh, we're right down to where life is. What is your foundation? Jesus said, I'm the foundation. Jesus said, I'm the rock. My teachings, my word. I've tried to tell you this. He said, the rock upon which you should build is Jesus. A life built on Jesus. That's it. That's what Jesus is saying. There was a man, a real estate developer, at a prayer breakfast one time. He hated to tell his wife everything that they had collapsed on him, and he hated to tell her. No more big cars, sweetheart. No more big houses, no more lake house, no more country club membership. He told her and she just smiled and said, sweetheart, that's all right. We started out with nothing, and we can do it again. We loved each other then. We love each other now. You still have your abilities. You have your experience. You know more now than you did when we started out. I have my faith. I still have Jesus Christ. He said, but honey, we're in poverty. We don't have anything. I've lost it all. She said, that's all right. In poverty or riches, I know the grace of Jesus Christ is sufficient not only for me, but for you also. And that big old strong man, his lips began to quiver. And he said, I always ridiculed religion. I thought I could do it myself. I thought I had the world by the tail. And suddenly at that moment he said, I realized that I was a weak one. I didn't have anything and she had everything. And he said, I fell on my knees and began to weep. And I began to cry out, honey, you have everything that I need. I don't have anything. I need Jesus to come into my life and to save me. And that's when I found Jesus. Oh, that's the rock that you need to build on. That's the foundation. And if you're not building on that rock, if you haven't built on that rock, the storms are going to get you sooner or later. Trust me, it's going to get you sooner or later. It may be sun shining today, no problem. But listen to me. You may think you have life by the tail and everything's going great and you're as healthy as you can possibly be. You just wait. The storm's going to come. And if you build on the sand of your abilities and your capacities, you're in a heap of trouble. And then the fourth element is that close. The wise man. Jesus said the wise man built his house by a plan, by design, and with a purpose on a rock. And he said that's the wise man. Now he didn't say that's a learned man. He didn't say that was a smart man. I know a lot of people who were smart and educated to the hill, and they're drinking themselves to death, and their families on the rocks. I had a man to tell me one time he was dying with cancer. He said, if I could have anything in this world, I want my health back. But it was too late. Too late. The wise man hears these words of mine, Jesus says, and he praises them. He agrees with them. That's what he does. Just ever so occasionally, somebody will go through that door back there. I'm standing there after the sermon. There's a preacher, that was a great sermon. That was a wonderful sermon. I enjoyed it. I agree with you. I know somebody that I wish to goodness that they had been here to hear that message, to have heard that message. Listen to it this morning. Jesus didn't say, agree. Jesus didn't say the wise man applauded. Didn't say he praised. He didn't say commend these sayings of mine. Jesus said, now, listen to me. Jesus said, he that heareth these words of mine and what? Doeth them. Action is the key. Doeth them right now. I'll act right now. I'll do it right now. I'll make a decision right now. He that doeth these words of mine, Jesus said, that's the wise man. Not just hear, not just say, boy, that's great, but right now, do it. So I want to ask you this morning, how many times have you said in this church or a church and said, I agree with that preacher. I agree, that's right. What a message. You spoke to my heart this morning, preacher. But you went out and you didn't do anything about it. You didn't make a profession of faith. You didn't make a break for the world. You didn't move your church membership. You didn't become active in this church or a church. You didn't say, I've drifted far too long. I'm going to put down some roots. But you just said, preacher, that's good. That's right. I agree with you. You heard the words of Jesus, but you didn't do anything about it. Jesus didn't say that's a wise man. In fact, he said this just the opposite. The devil's got you playing the fool. And when the storms come, and they will, your house will be beat and battered and broken. You're alive. Wise is a person who acts today as the Spirit moves upon him. And whatever you want to do, I pray that you do it right now. Some of you saying, and I know exactly what you're saying, well, preacher, it's too late for me. Too late for me. I didn't build upon the rock of Jesus. I don't have much time left now to build. Let me tell you this, and I say it with love in my heart. Instead of you spending your time this morning and spending the rest of your life crucifying yourself between two enemies, regret and guilt, why don't you make Jesus Christ the Lord of what's left and spend the rest of the time that you have living the rest of your life for Jesus?